Well, let's see. There we go. Hey, we're here. Can you hear me? All right, somebody that's watching, put in the chat that you can hear me, because I always like to know. I never really know. I've got the microphone on. Everything looks like it's going right here in the studio. That's fine. But this says we are offline up here. Are we online? Okay, so I'm going to ignore that little thing up there that says we're offline. I'm going to keep talking as if we are online. Hey, Kim, give me a wave over there in the green room. If okay, you can hear me. All right. Okay, that's good. Well, Kim is here, and this is May the 6th. This is the May the 6th meeting of the Flipping America RIA. Welcome, 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 everybody. We're glad you're here. Thank you for taking a little time from your schedule this evening, to stop binge watching whatever it is you're binge watching and join us here for a little bit of inspiration and a whole lot of information coming to you from our expert panel in just a few minutes. Okay? Now, I want you to think a little bit as we're launching into this meeting tonight. I want you to think a little bit about your success, okay? One of the really cool things about the United States of America, it is the land of opportunity. There's a reason people are beating a path to try to get into this country, either legally or illegally. This is still the land of opportunity. It's the place where people want to be. You have a great opportunity to achieve success and the life of your dreams here in this country. But here's a little bit of sad news. I hate to break it to you, but your success is not guaranteed. In fact, your success is going to largely depend on whether or not you're willing to go to work for it. The world doesn't owe you success. God doesn't owe you success. He's not obligated to bless whatever your image of God is. He or she is not obligated to bless your efforts and give you success. No one else is going to work for your success. Do you get that? The only way you're going to be successful is if you work for it yourself. Now, that's a phrase that appears in the pledge, and it's easy to kind of gloss over that. You know, for those of you that are new, this is the pledge that we sort of say to ourselves at the beginning of every one of these shows, just to get our minds in the right place. Accept responsibility for our lives, do all that we can, do a little bit more, rise up above the circumstances, never be beneath them, never be under the circumstances, and take charge of our lives. And so, having said all of that, I want you to be thinking a little bit about what I just said about no one is going to work for your success. You're going to see those words here in the pledge. When I look in the mirror, I see the reason, the credit for my successes, the blame for my failures. I cannot make it without my team, and I tell them often. But when they succeed, it's because I chose well and I led well. When they fail, it's because I did not choose or lead well. I am the reason. I may have setbacks, but I cannot fail if I don't ever give up. You got circumstances. I got circumstances. We all got circumstances, but you won't find me undermined. My situation will not dictate my emotion. My circumstances will not control my results. External forces will not take away my power to choose. I cannot change the world, but I can change me and the way I relate to it. So I charge on. I am the reason. I have a massive vision, which creates massive pressure, leading to massive action, which is the only chance I have to achieve massive results. The world doesn't owe me success. God doesn't owe me success. No one is going to work for my success. Therefore, no one will work harder for their success than I will for mine. I will give my all and then a bit more. So tomorrow, my all will be more. It's supposed to switch to the next screen. There we go. Button's just moving a little slow tonight. The computer is dragging a little bit. Maybe it's getting a little old. All right. So give your all and then a little bit more. So tomorrow your all will be more. All right. Let's get some announcements in here. First of all, I got to click on that. There we go. Tonight, the topic is buying single-family rentals with our expert panel. And our expert panel is -1 right now. I'm sure hoping that he shows up in the next few minutes, but we'll see. Next Wednesday, we're going to talk about self-directed investing with your retirement account. Sean McKay is going to be here with us from American IRA. Big shout out to American IRA. They are one of the sponsors of Flipping America, both this RIA and also the podcast. They partner with us and help bring the show to you 3 times a week. And I'm grateful for that partnership and that friendship. And I believe in American IRA. As you're going to see next week, when it comes to IRA custodians, they have really some of the best products in the industry, some of the best rates. Their fee structure is great. It's very fair. And they deserve to be number 1. And I'm doing all I can to help them be number 1. Tomorrow, next Thursday evening, a week from tonight, I've got Rich Monroe and Mike Hicks joining us. They are our expert panel for next week. And we're going to talk about short-term rentals. Rich Monroe is an Airbnb super host, and he teaches on the subject and can help people get into it. If you think you want to get into Airbnb or Vrbo, you know, I've used Vrbo for years, but I never knew that's how they pronounce it. I just call it VRBO, but whatever it is. Vrbo and Airbnb, if you want to be on those platforms, next week is going to be your opportunity to learn how to do it. And Mike Hicks is a real estate investor out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but he bought a couple of shipping containers and was going to make tiny houses out of them on top of a mountain in North Georgia, which he did, and then turned them into Airbnb. And the YouTube video on this is so great. My wife and I were both inspired, and we immediately went to Airbnb and tried to rent them, but they're booked up through October because it's just really cool what Mike has done. So Mike will be with us here next Thursday night as well. This is the Flipping America RIA, and there is your link to join. We're encouraging people to join. We're just about ready to put on a major push for members. We've been bringing everything in the Flipping America RIA to you for the last year, really for free. And, we will accept your membership if you want. But this live stream is going to continue to remain free, and the podcast is free. That means we're bringing you an incredible 5 hours plus of news and information about real estate investing for free every single week. But you can go deeper, you can go longer, you can go stronger, you can get more information if you join. And so the team here is working on putting together some resources for members. We're already doing some behind the scenes interviews with some of our show guests and putting those behind the membership wall. And we'll be pushing hard on this in a little while. But in the meantime, if you want to go ahead and join, there's the link, bit.ly/FarRiaJoin. On our meetup groups, this was from yesterday, 10,455 members in 32 groups across the country. And that's local chapters of the Flipping America RIA. We're excited about that. Now, that's at the free membership level. If only we had that many at the paid membership level, right? Okay, so let's mingle. Make sure if you have a question or a comment that you want to make during the presentation or in the conversation tonight, I want you to feel free to put them in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. We will see the comments. If you're watching the live stream, we will see the comments, and I will throw some of your questions to our panel, our expert panelist. All right. Okay, so that's the announcements, and I want to move back over here now, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about our sponsors for tonight. I've already mentioned American IRA. The other sponsor is Bay Mountain Capital. If you need money for your deal, Bay Mountain Capital is standing by. That's baymtncapital.com. Tell them I sent you. You can also reach out to Chip Cagle. He's usually here. He was called away this evening, can't be here. But I'll say behind his back what I say to his face. Bay Mountain is a great company with great products, great people, and great service. I believe in what they do. Now, just on the full level, I typically don't let someone be a sponsor of my activities unless I'm a user of their product, or at the very least a believer. I don't do hard money loans. Okay. But if I did, Bay Mountain is where I would go because they have great rates and they have a very generous. I mean, you can get 100% of your project funded under the right circumstances. And that's pretty cool. And so if I were going to go get money for a loan for a project, and I may still, when it comes to rentals, I prefer to operate on an all cash basis. That's just me. But I do believe that leverage brought into real estate is really a good idea. I just have my particular reasons for operating the way I do. Okay. If you really want to know, then you got to get to know me better and you got to become one of my insiders. At least join the RIA. Okay. So Bay Mountain Capital, American IRA, that's baymtncapital.com and americanira.com. Both of them can really help you out. I believe in both of them very strongly. All right. So our panel is shortened tonight, and instead of a full panel, we have Kim Kesterkey here. Kim, all right. Let me, I was supposed to introduce you before we brought you on. Is your mic on? Are we good?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Kim is the founder of W2 Landlord and has over 15 years experience. I can't believe you have over 15 years experience. Did you start this when you were 10?
No, not even close.
All right. At the age of 26, oh, wait a minute. Now you're telling us your age. Oops.
Yeah, it's
Everybody do
telling
the
me
math.
bio.
All right. At the age of 26, Kimberly found herself an accidental landlord. She was $30,000 underwater on her home due to the economic crash and was relocated 3 hours away from her job. Over the past 15 years, she's built a six-figure cash flowing portfolio, all from managing properties from a distance. Building effective processes through trial and error, Kimberly has proven strategies for placing tenants, managing contractors, and fulfilling maintenance requests. So far, she has never had an eviction. That is an amazing track record and has minimal vacancies. Not only that, she did it while juggling a W-2 job, a family, and self-managing her rental properties from a distance. She's a mom to an active 7-year-old, a proud dog owner to a 6-month-old puppy. In her spare time, she likes to hike, and she likes to be outdoors. I like to be outdoors too, which means when I get home from these evenings, I sit on the balcony and look over Midtown. That's my outdoors experience these days. But
Right.
now, what you didn't say in this nice little bio that I just read is that you have founded the W2 Landlord, which is a course that I've sent people through. And
Yes.
they tell me it's great. Now, I haven't taken it, but one of these days I will. The W-2 Landlord is a course for people just like yourself who have a W-2 job and want to keep it, but want to own rental properties and build the portfolio that way. Am I getting it right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I also want to tell everyone who's listening this. I reached out to Kim and also Glenn, our other guest who has not been able to make it on here yet. I'm not sure what's happening. Wait, I got a text. Oh, no, that's not from him. Anyway, I reached out to them. They did not come to me. They did not seek me out with something to sell and so forth. But both of them do have something. They have products to sell. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Just to let you know, this is not the typical RIA where the guests are out there, pushing themselves on the host and saying, hey, I want to do my workshop thing and blah, 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 blah. We don't have any of that going on here tonight. Kim is here out of the goodness of her heart. She didn't know I was going to give her an opportunity to sell her products, but I reached out to her earlier today and said, let's do this. Let's tell people what you have available, because I think once they get to know you, they're going to want to, go a little deeper with the knowledge that you have. Right. Okay. So let's dive in. Let's dive in a little bit.
Sure.
It's just you now. If Glenn shows up, we might let him talk, but tell us a little bit the story of you becoming an accidental landlord. A little bit more of that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2006, I bought my first home. And at that time, money was really easy to get. And the market actually felt a lot like it is now, where just everyone was saying, you got to buy, prices are only going up. Real estate is such a great investment. You know the drill. So I bought a house, and 2 years later, we all know what happened. The economy tanked. So that was the first incident that happened. And then the second incident was that I was relocated 3.5 hours away for my job. So it wasn't as if I could just stay in the house and wait it out. I actually had to move. And at the time, my property was $30,000 underwater. And at 26 years old, and even now, just, at my age, I still wouldn't want to show up to a closing table 30 grand in the hole. I would never want to write a check for any amount of money other than a down payment, getting an asset. And so at the time, I just decided to pivot. And I really didn't know what I was going to do, but I just started asking around, and I ended up having a friend who needed a place to stay, or it was one of her friends. So I didn't do any sort of credit check, background check. I made probably every mistake in the book, but I lucked out. And I think honestly, the reason why I lucked out in that moment was because it was really the catalyst that got me to just grow my confidence, build, buy another one a few years later, then buy another one. And then history just kind of repeats itself, just kept acquiring properties.
Okay. So how did you learn the rules of, there are rules, laws, actually, not just suggestions about property management. Where'd you go to learn all that?
So I ended up joining my local RIA, the Georgia RIA here in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's really where I started learning more about the, tenant landlord handbook and reading more of those rules. Luckily, at that time, I had very few properties. And just because where my market's Augusta, Georgia, and it's just an incredible renter's market. I just had a series of good tenants. And I think a little bit of knowing how I would want to be treated, I would treat them that way, got me through those first couple of years not knowing what I was doing. But then I started wising up, I started studying, I started networking with other investors and really starting to do more. And that's when I started reading the tenant landlord handbook and talking to more people.
Do you know Curtis over there at the Georgia RIA?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Who doesn't know? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and we're pretty good friends, and I have a lot of respect for him and what he's done. And he really specializes in rental properties as well. And come to think of it, I probably should have had him on the panel tonight. Didn't think about that until right now. All right, maybe we'll make it up to him later on. Anyway, all right. So, as a W-2 job holder, and you want to keep your job, what are the biggest challenges that you face being a landlord and owning rental properties?
My biggest challenge personally is managing contractors from a distance. And I think that other landlords could have that same feeling. It's just, there is a level of advantage when you have boots on the ground. And what I've learned over the years is I've gotten some really good relationships with, certain contractors. And when you treat the contractors well, and you don't penny pinch, and you don't try to be micromanaging, they actually will like working with you more. And then they'll pick up your phone a little bit more. And then you can really start developing a good relationship.
Yeah,
that has been my biggest lesson. Because when I would try to negotiate and, get 3 quotes and pit them against each other, it really just ruined the relationship. And once you find somebody good, just treat them very well, and they'll work hard for you.
That's right. And you tapped into something that I want to repeat and stress, because this is something that I also teach. You're not going to find contractors receptive to the idea of being in a bidding war. You're not a municipality, okay? And you probably aren't really going to want the lowest price anyway. You're going to want the contractor with the highest character. And your first task is to find out, is this a good person? And your next task is to find out, is this person good at what I need? And then you start talking about the price. And if you have a good contractor who is a good person, the price is almost a secondary concern, because the price is going to be a whole lot more if it's a bad person. You've had that experience?
Yeah, you got to get it done twice. Just keep that in mind. You'll have to get it done twice, or they'll cut out on you in the middle of the job, and it can really become a challenge.
Okay, so while we're on this subject, what is a big warning flag that comes to your mind when you're interviewing a contractor about a potential job, or you're ready to hire them?
Well, what I look for is, are they getting me a quote in writing, or are they just giving me a verbal quote? People, contractors who are professional, who know what they're doing, they're going to itemize out their scope of work, basically give you a scope of work.
Itemized scope and in writing. Very good.
Then the second, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You keep going.
Okay, all right. Because trust me, I've been burned a lot, so I've got some really good nuggets here. But then the second thing is you want to make sure they have references. Now, I've fallen in the trap of just talking to somebody and needing something fast and being like, "Oh, they sound good. I'll just have them go do it." And I've just gotten burned so bad. It pays to get 3 references, and granted, obviously they're going to give you their top 3 people, but when you're talking to the references, you can ask them questions. How many times have you used them? What kind of work? You just kind of see if it's the same. And these calls to references only last about 5 to 10 minutes. So don't think that you're going to be spending all of your time, vetting a contractor. But it's really important, because if you choose the wrong contractor, you can be in a lot of headaches. They can do things that aren't to code, and it really puts your tenant at danger more than anything. And you just don't want to be in that situation. You want to make sure you're choosing somebody that really knows what they're doing.
Well, not just putting your tenant at danger, it's you have the liability for it.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, so it's creating a situation for you. Okay, so I would like for you, while I'm texting Glenn here, to give us the top 3 things that are warning signs against hiring a contractor.
Oh boy, goodness. Well, I would say I look at a scope of work not being able to get you something in writing. That to me is a red flag. Second thing, if you ask for their license paperwork and they can't get it to you, that's another red flag. And gosh, I mean, can you tell I've been through this a lot? And then I would also say, truly, the person that is significantly lower in price than maybe the other person that you got a quote for, the other
Mm-hmm.
2 quotes, to me, that's a warning sign, because,
Yep. All
okay,
those
and
are
then a
right.
third
Yep.
or a fourth warning sign, just so you know, is if they're readily available, as in you call them and you say, "Can you get over there first thing tomorrow?" And you don't know them and they say yes. To me, that's another warning sign, because contractors are so busy right now. You really have to take your time and wait.
Yep. I have one more to add, since I'm forming a part of the expert panel here. If they ask me for money up front,
Oh yeah, that too. Mm-hmm.
um, I will tell them why I don't do that. But if they balk, it's over. Because and now listen, everybody, contractors are going to tell you, you've got to give me money up front to get the job started. You don't
Mm-hmm.
expect me to fund your business or finance your business, do you? Okay, you need to know what to say. Has anybody ever said that to you?
Oh yeah, just recently,
Okay,
actually.
so here's
Mm-hmm.
what you say is, no, I don't expect you to finance my business. I expect you to finance yours. Your business is to install the products, but until they are installed in my property, they don't belong to me. If a framing package or shingles or a sheetrock delivery is delivered and is sitting on the ground outside the house, it doesn't belong to me. It's yours. It only
Mm-hmm.
belongs to me when you put it in my property. And at that point, I will pay you. But here's the other thing. In this whole thing, the only one of the 2 of us that has any real leverage is the contractor, because they can lien the property if I don't pay them. But if I give them money and they disappear, I have very little recourse. I can sue them, but it'll cost me more to collect, and I won't collect. So I'm not giving any money up front. Um, if you have a contractor right now in this economy who is both readily available, as you just said, and broke, they're problems. Even if they're not readily available, if they're broke, there's problems, because either they don't manage their money well, or they don't manage their money well, or maybe they don't charge enough. But more likely, if a contractor is broke right now, they don't manage their money well. And if they don't manage their own money well, why are you going to trust them with your house? Okay. Now,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
gotten a little off the subject there on contractors, but that's okay. Um, you got to talk about what you got to talk about, right? So I that's in the context of asking you what the biggest challenges are that you face. Are there any other challenges? Now, let me ask you this too. Are all of your properties in Georgia?
Yes. Well, okay. 99% of my portfolio is in Georgia, but I actually invested in two Buyers Club properties.
Yeah.
So I've got one in North Dakota, and I also have another one in New York.
Yeah.
And those are
I'm
my
aware of that.
first two. What was that?
I'm aware of those properties.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so far so good. I mean, it's definitely been a learning experience. So I'm learning
Well,
a lot. And so far, happy.
we need to have this conversation offline, but we need to talk about the situation in North Dakota because we've got an
Yeah.
interesting exchange of emails going on about that. But Emily will likely be in touch with you tomorrow, and we can talk. Anyway, so yeah, so your rental properties, you're not your Buyers Club, and if y'all are wondering, go to flipping bit.ly/FA Buyers Club or Flipping America Buyers Club. Either one will take you there, and you can get more information. It's a done for you investing service, but you're not turning those into rentals, right? Well, actually, I think you flipped
No.
the one in North Dakota.
So yeah, I mean, what I'm doing with those, I mean, those I'm not renting them. The value add that I'm providing and is a part of what you teach is the providing lease options or seller finance.
Right.
So in a way, I mean, I look at it for me because I do rentals for passive income. So I look at it as an opportunity for passive income without
Yeah.
necessarily having to do the maintenance. And as we just talked about, I mean, I'm happy to do the maintenance, but you and I just had a really great conversation as to what to look for in contractors. So again, I'm always open to learning new strategies and techniques that bring in the passive income, like the rental properties will and whatnot.
Right. Right.
You have to
Okay.
diversify, is the way I look at it.
Yes. And so your straight rentals are all in Georgia.
They are,
So
yes.
you have one set of laws that you have to be familiar with and abide by. And um, you've never had to do an eviction.
No.
Um, uh, oh, okay. All right. Our other guest, Glenn, had surgery today
Ooh.
and he's not going to be able to join us. So we'll catch him at another time. So you're our panel, Kimberly.
Oh boy. Bring on the questions. Give
Yeah,
me the
no
hard
pressure. No
one.
pressure. All
No
right.
question.
So, okay. In any investment, and this is we're kind of kicking off passive income month here at Flipping America. So next Wednesday we're talking with the American IRA about using retirement funds, and next Thursday we're talking about short-term rentals, and then I don't even remember what's after that, but it's all passive income. And at the end of the month, we're going to have one person who is in a W-2 job that he wants to keep and wants to do this, but he wants to invest in real estate. And then we're going to have a number of panelists talking about why their passive income is the go-to. So, first of all, let me ask you this. If you had it to
Mhm.
do all over again, would you go the rental houses route? Is that still your favorite thing?
Absolutely. It taught me so much. I think as new investors, it's a safe bet. It really is. There's a lot of really awesome other strategies, but I look at them as more advanced strategies. I think if somebody's new, they've got a job, and they're just trying to get into this, then they really ought to take a conservative approach, get a single family or a duplex or a triplex, depending on what their budget allows, and start there.
Okay. So just buy any duplex that comes along down the pike, or how do you think about the numbers on these when you're looking at something? You want to get the right price, don't you?
Absolutely. And I think it's still doable in this market. There's deals everywhere. You just have to know where to look. Wholesalers is one area, and we can talk about that later. But in terms of how I actually go and analyze a property, what I do is I look at what the potential rents are. The way I do that is I go on to Zillow in the rental area, and I look at my particular zip code, and I see what are comparables in terms of the rent. And then I take a look at what is that mortgage going to be if I'm using leverage in that. 80% of my properties I've used leverage, which is I've gotten a bank loan. And then I kind of calculate what's the mortgage, what's the
Yeah.
income coming in, and then just kind of backtracking to where I just want to get a certain amount of cash flow per unit. If it hits that minimum, then to me, it's a good deal.
Okay. So you're looking at cash flow, not necessarily any kind of a return metric like a return
Right.
on cash or an internal rate of return or a cap rate. Um,
Right. Hmm.
Okay. Do you do any of those kinds of analyses on the property, like debt service coverage ratio or yield spread or anything?
I
Just
mean, I know how to do those and I do them, but I'm just speaking for what my personal goal is. And I think as a W-2 employee, it's similar. I think how I look at it is similar to how other W-2 employees would look at it is, we're doing this for a sound retirement. Some of us want to keep our jobs, some of us want to leave the jobs. But at the same time, it's how much money am I going to be getting in profit every
okay.
month? And can I repeat that? And can I hit my goal of what I want to get per month with X amount of properties?
Yeah.
So I look at it a lot different than I think, a lot of the gurus do out there or other investors.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that you do, but that's okay. To each
Hmm.
their own, as long as you know what you're doing and know
Right.
what you're going for. But
Yep.
let me ask you this: if you make, let's say, I don't know, do you mind telling us what your cash flow spread is you want? Because like 300 a month is usually satisfactory to a lot of people.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. So I'll look at something like, between 3 and 500, but I have
Okay.
properties that are outperforming that. And
Wow. Good
so
for
it's
you.
just, I've been able to get them at good prices. I've networked with a lot of wholesalers. And now that I'm getting savvier and more advanced, I'm able to start implementing some sub two or subject to
Oh, good for
deal
you.
mod, yeah, deal modifications, and just really start, implementing some of these things that seem airy fairy when you when you hear about them, but they actually work. And so then that's now taking the bank loan out of it, which is allowing me to get better cash flow rates.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to the bank loans in just a minute because I do want to talk to you about the cost to enter this this entire thing.
Yep.
Um, Now, your first one, you actually owned the house already, and you had a bank loan, and you turned it into a rental.
Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
all right. So I wanted to ask you one more question about the numbers. If you're making $300 a month on a house, what's going to be your net profit after all your expenses in a given year?
Okay. Well, so I take out the expenses to
Oh, so
and
you're
then get.
calculating a net.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still looking at, 10% expenses, like basically 10% of the rent I allocate to maintenance expenses. I put a segment in for property management. I self-managed for 15 years, but November of last year, I decided to hire a property manager. It
Congratulations.
just ended up making sense for me. So I look at all those other numbers as well. And so, I mean, I'm pretty happy with my profit. I mean, with looking at my, taxes, I'm probably making like a 40% profit. I could probably get you some better numbers, at the end of the day, but that's really where I'm at. And
Yeah.
so I'm just in still building mode.
Well, where I was going with that is a lot of people
Mhm.
they'll look at a deal and they say, "Oh, $300 a month." They're what they're thinking is a $300 difference between what their payment is and what the rent is. And
Oh,
when you
I
see
see.
that,
Yes.
I
Hmm.
say, "Okay, but that means that you're going to be doing well to break even at the end of the
Yeah,
year."
that you're going to need more. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so you're getting that in a net. So you're buying them at pretty good numbers, I would say. You're probably buying them at 2% per month rate, something like that.
But I'm also, my zone is our duplexes. And
Oh,
I,
okay.
I did, I experimented with a triplex and it was fine, but I like the duplexes. And then I do have a couple single families.
Yeah.
So all of them, but I do sparse it out by unit. So the conversation is still relevant to single families
Yep.
because you're still doing the same analytics.
One of the things I really like about duplexes is you are rarely 100% vacant, and usually
Correct.
one side occupied can make the mortgage payment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that leaves you in a little bit better position. All right. Speaking of the mortgage, you go out and you get a loan to buy one of these. How much we're talking about really the barriers to entry. I'm putting together a chart that I'm going to start giving away at the end of the month that shows all of the different ways that you can passively invest in real estate and compare them on a number of factors. So typically, all right, first of all, let's talk about what do you typically buy? What price range do you buy Um, tell us that.
Gosh, I've been able to get a property as low as $35,000, and
Wow.
I'm telling you, this is in the last couple of years. This isn't 20 or yeah 2012 rates. This
Probably
is
not inside the perimeter in Atlanta, though.
no. This is Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah.
It's a secondary market, but there's so many great secondary markets out there. I mean, Augusta is just one of them. Take your
Right.
pick. They're all over, and up to I think the highest that I paid was 135 for a duplex.
Okay. All right. So let's take the 135 duplex,
Sure.
and you go to a bank to get a loan on that. And we're just talking in generalities now. How much money, for somebody who's sitting here thinking this over, how much money do they think are they probably going to need to have cash in the bank to buy that and make the down payment and so forth?
So if you're brand new and you don't have any other loans other than your primary, just I guess it's 1 to 3 loans, I believe, it's 20% down. So you can get a conventional loan for 20% down between I believe 1 and 3 properties. And then
So that's
after that,
27,000 if you're doing the math at home.
what was that?
That on a $135,000 purchase, that's 27,000 if you're doing the math
Yes.
at home.
Yep. And then after that, you are bumped up at a certain level to 25%. So you do have to account for that. But if we're just talking, you're brand new and you're trying to get into it, anticipate 20% down for a standard conventional low interest rate loan.
Okay. Now, how long after you did your first rental did you go back for a loan for your next rental? How long of a time was that?
So there was definitely a gap. I would say it was about 5 years
Okay.
between the two because I was building my confidence. I wasn't even sure if I was going to keep the
Yeah, of
property.
course.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so there was a bit of a gap there.
All right. Well, so when you went to get the loan on the next rental property, you were able, and where I'm coming from here is thinking about debt to income ratio.
Yes. Okay.
As far as the underwriting process for the loan, you were able to count the income from your prior rental toward your total income on your debt to income ratio for this next loan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I believe the rules are, I think you have to have it seasoned for a year. You have to be able to show rent payments and a lease that covers that for a year. And then they'll take that out of your debt to income. And
Well,
check with your mortgage lender. It might be 2 years.
yeah, the
It's
federal underwriting rules for conforming loans, you have to have 2 years of rental
okay.
income on your tax returns before they will start taking your rental income. They basically, that's before they start taking you seriously. And in the
Okay.
meantime, though, this is the catch. In the meantime, you have to be able to qualify to make that payment in addition to whatever your current living arrangement payment is, house payment or rent. And you have to be able to qualify to make both of them on your W-2 income. So that slows people down right at first. Didn't affect you because you waited 5 years. So you had the
Yeah,
income.
I lucked out. I wouldn't have been able to do it just where I was if I was trying to get a bunch of conventional loans at the time. But because it was 5 years and I could show the proof, it was fine.
All right. So I'll let you guys in on a not so well hidden secret because Chip talks about this every week. Bay Mountain Capital has a rental loan, and guess how long it goes for? 3 years. You can also, they have a 5-year product too, but you can get a 3-year loan from Bay Mountain Capital, and after 3 years, then you can turn that into a conventional loan at your bank. And probably the way the real estate market has been right now, when you refinance that loan in 3 years, the house will be worth enough more that you can end up pulling cash out. How about that? Something to think about. Eb Armstrong wants to know what credit score? What kind of credit score do you need to have?
I mean, again, it's a range. I mean, I guess 620. You got to be in more of like that, good. I think at the time on my second property, that's about where I was, 650-ish, maybe
Yeah.
695. So I was still able to get a loan. I think what it is it's more of what the interest rate you're going to get is really the credit
Yeah,
score is
that's
more
true.
contingent on the interest rate than it is so much
Well,
getting the loan. I mean, they do have their parameters too.
how long since you got a loan?
Well, let's see, I think the last loan I got was in 2019.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The screws have been gradually tightening over the last 18 to 24 months. And it's tough to even get a primary home loan now if you have less than a 640. It's tough.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
definitely credit is something to be working on. And all right, so we're talking about a $30,000. That's a typical down payment on a $130,000 thing, and that's if it's rent ready. How often do you have to make some repairs before you can actually put them into service?
I mean, there's always going to be something that you do have to do. I personally have gotten to the point I look at more of the cosmetic ones. So I've got a certain paint color, excuse me, that I use on all of my rentals now because it makes it easy. And there's certain little things I might change some fixtures here and there. If it needs a little bit more of extensive renovation, then I'll just build that in to my numbers before I acquire the property.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So, what's been the worst experience you have had?
Well,
How bad can it get?
question.
Okay, you're already turning red now. I can see
No, it's just I was just trying to think, should I say this story or this other
it.
story? But
Oh, you got
okay,
more than one really bad one. Okay.
yeah, but this one I just feel like I brought it on myself, and I'll tell you why. So the number one thing as a landlord, you have to have your tenant criteria, and it consists of a credit score. It consists of how whatever your income to rent ratio. It consists of these boundaries, criminal background, the whole 9 yards. So you as your own landlord, you've got to decide what those are for you. I could give you my ranges, but again, everybody's a little different on what they'll accept. So for me personally, I have my ranges. There was this young kid, and I have such a soft spot for people that are hardworking, young. And he was an HVAC contractor, and he was, this was his story. Just be careful when you get a big long story. That's a red flag. But he was moving up from Florida, and oh, I would love to rent your place, and oh, it's beautiful and it's great, and I work really hard, and I don't know. I mean, for some reason, I just had a soft spot for this young kid. And so I did the background check, and there was, I think, 2 out of 3 of my non-negotiables. He pretty much had 2 strikes against him on the 3. And this is the kicker, and I think this is why I made this mistake, is I was probably more desperate to get somebody in there than he was desperate to get a place. Never get emotional about it. You will fill that rental unit. And I think this was only open about 1 week. So I don't even know why I was, eager to get somebody in. I could have waited. Well, it was a month-to-month lease. I structured it that way. Just thank goodness I did that. And he got in, and first month paid, second month we had started having issues. And I've never had an eviction, and I didn't evict him on this. But what happened is that, I did start sending him the eviction letters because that's a part of my process. And then I even gave him a 3-day. He was able to determine if he wanted to take a buyout or not. That's another reason why I don't have evictions, is I'll offer them a small cash for keys. A lot of times people will take that so that I don't have to go to court and prolong it. And so he ended up taking that buyout. I thought that I was done, and he ended up taking an axe to a lot of the walls in the apartment. And I think the reason why that's the worst experience is because, thank goodness, I'm 3.5 hours away. I'm a mom, all these things. Like, you just got to be so careful who you put into your properties. I never met him over, face to face. It was done all online, but that was really dangerous. And what I should have done is I should have listened to my gut and looked at these 2 strikes against him. And even though I had a soft spot that he works hard and he was an HVAC contractor and all that checked out, I shouldn't have ever let him into my property, ever let him into my asset. So just that is a big warning to everybody, because I think my story is very similar. Any landlord can say, yeah, that one time that I budged a little bit on the credit score, I had issues. So
yeah. And the 3 Ps of bad tenants, right? Never rent to painters, policemen, and preachers.
No, geez.
They all have a sad story to tell and not much money. Um,
Oh man. Yes, once you get the sad story, just listen, have empathy, but you got a business here. You're not, your
yeah.
property isn't a charity, it's a business, and just, treat it like that and you'll be
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
One of the things that is a good life lesson here is for a lot of people who are in the real estate business, for some of us are full time, we don't have the security of a W 2 job. If you're flipping houses for your livelihood, and then you're trying to buy rental houses, I would encourage you, don't get impatient and don't get in a hurry. Like I don't know, I've got a T-shirt that says "Ask me how I know." And you buy a rental property because it's a really good deal. It looks like a good deal, but you've got a mortgage on it and you don't have anybody in it. And like Kimberly just said, that's when you get a little desperate, because I've got a bunch of properties that I'm going to flip and close on hopefully next month, but I don't have enough cash in the bank to make this mortgage payment this month. And so we compromise our standards and we put people in that we later regret. And it only ends up costing you more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had to get the holes repaired and
Did you have him
pay him
arrested?
to leave. Sorry, what was that?
Did you have him arrested?
It's a long story. I did call the cops. They did show up. They didn't arrest him. So,
Hmm.
nobody was on the premise. It wasn't as if I was there and, he was threatening myself or any of the other tenants, but it really could have been a dangerous situation, even for the other tenants on that property.
In the
So
state
I
of
was actually
Georgia,
very surprised that he
more
didn't get
yeah.
arrested, to be
If
honest with
in the
you.
state of Georgia, malicious vandalism
Mhm.
that's more than $500 to repair is a felony. So,
Well, that's good to know. Everybody write that down because, I did call the cops
but
and
yeah,
yeah, but
it might be up to you to press charges on that. I don't know. They've got bigger issues to solve probably than somebody
Mhm.
abusing your property. But it's like everything else. If you bring people of character into your properties, you're not going to have these problems, right?
I mean, yeah, and I don't have a lot of issues with my tenants, thank goodness, when I follow my own rules,
Yeah,
which is you have your
yeah,
credit score, you've got your boundary there, your boundary with the background check, boundary with the rent to income. Just follow it,
yeah,
and it seems so easy, but it's sometimes hard to do in practice.
yeah. And the longer the excuse making, the more wary I get, and the more they tell me what a good person they are. As soon as that starts, I'm out, because
The story's 5 minutes long.
they're
I'm like,
still they're
whoa,
still
this is
trying to
gonna
convince
be,
themselves that they're a good person after all
oh
they've
boy.
done. And no, that's not going to work well. Okay. All right. So if you were to start over today, what would you do differently?
It's a good question. I would have gotten education a lot sooner. I wouldn't have waited to start. Like, I wouldn't have gotten the education to wait to start. You got to get started. So, but I would have not waited so far in between my first property and my second property. And I would have joined a RIA, or I would have joined some sort of networking group. There's tons of great Facebook groups out there. And I would really start learning as much as I could, as quickly as I could.
All right. Now, you've put together some resources for people, and one of the ones that you want to talk about tonight is this 30-day thing. Okay.
Yes.
Now,
Mhm.
I took the liberty of taking that big long link you sent me and I put it into a shorter link, which is now on
Yes.
screen.
Thank
Um,
you.
this is bit.ly/Kim's 30 day. And if you'll go to this link, don't do it right now, but if you'll go to this link, here's what you're going to get, Kim.
Yeah, so it really is. I took all of the things that I would do if I was starting over in the next 30 days to basically look for a property, analyze a property, what I would do for networking, everything. It's 30 different tasks over 30 days, and it results in you having the confidence to buy a rental property. I mean, if you really wanted to follow it day one, day two, day three, day four, all the way through, you very likely could be making offers, talking to sellers, and have something under contract. But what I look at it is it's more of this back to basics strategies. And as investors, like, I mean, we just get used to how we do things. And it's almost like sharpening your skills. You could go do it over and over again if you want, but it's just sharpening those skills. It's networking with more people, or maybe day 3 is, network with some mortgage lenders or hard money lenders or whatever. There's always more of those people to network with. So just look at it as, a way to refine your skills and sharpen your skills over and over again.
Now, it's been a few hours since I looked at the page, but it seemed like it was a very reasonable price. What is it?
Oh yeah, it's $19.99. It's
Yeah.
really affordable, but really what it does is it gets you in there, it gets you, seeing, my style of teaching, and then it kind of, puts you in the line if you wanted to take a course, or you wanted to join the Facebook group, or if you wanted to, like, work more with as like a W-2 investor. It just gives you a good way to get started into all of that.
Have you ever taken the disc profile?
I have not.
Okay.
I,
Well,
I should. Everybody's asked me that.
oh no, it's okay. I mean, it's all right. But I'm thinking that your style is a lot of attention to detail and very thorough.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, that would make you a high C in the disc personality profile. And I sit here and I'm listening to you, and there are times when I'm envious of that because you have everything just so, and I'm over here like, hey, let's buy this, let's do that, we'll figure it out in a little while.
But it's awesome, Roger. I mean, come on, like the whole thing that you've done is amazing. So
Well, thank you.
big
But
win.
I pulled the trigger on 5 houses this week, and you've only seen one of them. Um,
Mhm.
so you, as a member of the Buyers Club, you're going to get an email with form. Well, the one from yesterday, I I don't think anybody's bought it yet. I don't know. I was having
Mhm.
an exchange with someone earlier, but anyway, I have about 60 seconds when we're coming down to the end of the auction. I've got 60 seconds to make a decision whether to buy that house. That fits my style. Well, I don't know. Let's just guess. But Kimberly is not that
What
way at
does your
all.
gut tell you? Yeah.
Do what?
I said, what does your gut tell you? Is it a yes?
Well,
Push the button.
I'm pretty good at doing math in my head, and I'm learning. I'm not as good as my mentor, Eric, but I am learning what the rents are in markets all across the United States. So I can almost immediately tell whether this is a deal that's going to work for our club, and that's fine. But when it comes to managing tenants and doing what we do, the reason I say all that is we need to have a personality and an orientation like you, where you really mind your P's and Q's and you look after all these details. And I don't want to get too far deep into the details. In fact, we're just about out of time. But I do want to, well, first of all, I want to encourage everybody to go. And I think I'm going to sign up for that too. I mean, I can afford $19.99, and I want to see how you handle some of these things. Um, and maybe I can, you know, I'm sure I can learn some ways to do things better over the years through trial and error. You know, and my approach is let's do this and we'll figure it out. We figured out a lot of things and we built systems, and I probably do a little bit better job with the details than I'm giving myself credit for here. But we have a lot of details going on around here, and a lot of things to manage. And it's really good to have everything sort of just set out the way I know you do, right? All right, so it's Kim's 30 day. And hey, when you all are putting in the bit link, make sure you use the capital letters just as you see right here, because Bitly is weird about that. It's case sensitive. So capital K and capital D for the Kim's 30 day, and take advantage of this offer. I'd like for you, Kimberly, if you would, to leave us with just a get up and at 'em and get out there kind of word of encouragement.
Yeah, just don't overanalyze it. You don't have to know all the details. You don't know have to know how it's going to end. Just go ahead and do it. I mean, you're going to learn how to do it over time. An asset is an asset. It's really hard to not make money on it. If you have questions, there's so many resources and real estate investors that can guide you through it. And I mean, I would say just go do it. Just don't sit and overanalyze. I think that's the number one thing that can really harm people in their investment journey.
All right. Thank you very much. That's Kimberly Kesterkey, and her website is W2 Landlord. And I still have the offer here for what she's got today. Kimberly, hang on, please. I'll talk to you after we sign off the show. But for all of you, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time. And say a prayer, if you will, for Glenn with his surgery today. We'll get him on at another time because he has a lot of valuable insight to offer as well. That'll do it for this evening. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you again next Wednesday, 12:30 Eastern Time.